Your stories heard. This is Undeterred. Live! Podcast streaming on Spotify, Google Podcast, and Apple Podcast. Stories heard. This is Undeterred. Undeterred by Ken. Hello. Eto na nga, Dalaygon. So I'm back. So it's been a while, and thank you for tuning in again to my podcast, Undeterred by Ken, of course. Yay! Yeah. So we're back. And I'm opening a new season for everyone for this new school year. Yay! Yan, diba? Graduating na tayo. And part of my curriculum this year is my NSTP course. Ayan. So, I'm going to give you an update first kung paano natin sisimulan itong season na ito at saka kung ano yung mga pag-uusapan natin sa mga susunod na episode. Thank you for tuning in sa aking mga listeners, sa aking 3 listeners. Maraming salamat sa pag-tune in. So ngayon, for this episode, i-discuss ko kung ano yung sa ating episode 1, which is right now. Kasi kumuha ako ng NSTP course sa UP. Part of my requirement to graduate is to get an NSTP course. Ayan. So, ang NSTP course na nakuha ko ay yung CWTS, and part of that ay, of course, yung mga common modules na sinasabi natin. So, yung common modules na yun, we will reflect, diba? Reflect and digest the information na pinanood namin sa video. Dito sa unang video na ito, pamagat niya ay Tatak Upd Nstp Orientation. So, malalaman natin kung ano yung ano bang special, diba, about NSTP sa UP Diliman. At saka sasagutin din natin yung mga tanong na bakit may NSTP? Diba? Tsaka ano ba yung NSTP na yan? And sino ang dapat kumuha ng NSTP? And syempre, ihimayin din natin, diba? Iisa-isahin natin kung ano yung ibig sabihin nung sinabi ko kanina na Tatak UP Diliman NSTP. So pag sa UP Diliman ka ba nag-NSTP, kakaiba ba siya? Sa, for example, sa Cavite State University, sa Philippine Normal University, anong kakaiba sa NSTP sa UP Diliman? So malalaman natin yan lahat sa pagpapatuloy ng ating episode. And so yun, simulan natin. So what's special about NSTP and UP? Sabi dito, yung NSTP daw sa UP ay nakasentro sa serbisyo o paglilingkod. Yun yung dalawang word, di ba? Serbisyo at paglilingkod. Service. So sa UP, bilang isang public service university siya, 'di ba? Centered yung kanyang core values sa academic excellence, at bukod doon kasi yun yung laging component na naririnig natin, 'di ba? Pag sinabing UP, okay, academic excellence dapat, 'di ba? Pero merong isang ano pa doon, meron pang isang side which is yung service for the people. So yung service for the people na yan, ito yung way ng UP para paglingkuran yung bayan, and that is the core of NSTP and UP. Okay, so let's look back in history. What is the history of service or how does the history of service look like in UP? So let's start with the agenda first. Okay, so yung agenda kasi or yung core ng NSTP or ng service sa UP is to better the lives of the people. Of course, that's always the core of UP. To serve the people, to give back to the people, and to help people better their lives, 'di ba? Kasi as a UP student, as an ISCO, you're not in UP because you just want to study, but because you want to give back somewhat to the people, 'di ba? To the people who you are scholar of. Hindi ka scholar ng gobyerno, hindi ka scholar ni Marcos, hindi ka scholar ng Aquino, hindi ka scholar ng sino man political leader. 'Di ba? Scholar ka ng taong bayan. So kung mag-give back ka, hindi ka dun sa mga political leader na yun magpapasalamat, kung hindi dun sa mga tao. And you can do that through your service. 'Di ba? Sabi nga ni Murray Simpson Bartlett, siya yung unang-unang UP president. Sabi niya, UP must be for the Filipino, and it can serve the world best by serving the Filipino. So ito yung idea na Filipino first, 'di ba? This is the reason why it is important for Filipinos to take the NSTP course for us to understand, 'di ba, how it is to be a Filipino helping other Filipinos. Sabi rin ni Rafael Palma, he's also a UP president, 'di ba? Sabi niya, by the way, yung Rafael Palma College of Social Sciences and Philosophy, Palma Hall is named after Rafael Palma, which is a UP president. Sabi niya, UP's mission is to encourage, quote and unquote, original thinking and our individuality in the realm of mind for the positive benefit of the Filipino people. Again, naglo-loop back tayo ulit dun sa core ng service, kung kanino directed yung service na ibibigay natin, which is to the Filipino people. And andun tayo ulit sa pag-consider ng original thinking and individuality. Kasi as an isko, hindi ka lang nandyan para manggaya, 'di ba? Hindi ka lang nandyan para kopyahin yung gawa ng iba. Kung hindi, 'di ba, para isulong yung individuality mo, kung what sets you apart, what makes you unique, and what can you contribute to your society. Diba, as an isko. That's telling something about being an isko. Sabi naman ni George Bocobo said that UP required civics courses para sa tatlong reason. For him, number 1 is to promote patriotism, discipline, pangalawa, and lastly, sacrifice. And for me, these core values are important in nation building kasi, 'di ba? Nakikita natin yan Sabi dun nga sa NSTP video, sabi during the martial law era, 'di ba? Many isko rendered their service to the Filipino people through activism. Ito yung aktibong pakikilahok nila. They are taking their voices out to the streets kasi they are civic meron na silang tinatawag na civic consciousness, 'di ba? Yung damdaming makabansa nila, yung patriotism nila, at yung pagsasakripisyo, paglalaan ng sarili para sa bayan. Andun na yung idea na para sa bayan. So, George Bocobo, the president of UP before, ni-require niya yung civic courses sa UP para mapalalim pa yung pag-intindi ng mga isko dun sa tatlong prinsipyo na yon, yung patriotism, discipline, and sacrifice. So, punta naman tayo sa sinabi naman ni Emil Javier. Ayan. Si Emil Javier is also a UP president and he created yung University of the Philippines Open University o yung UPOU. And yung UPOU kasi, this is an online university, 'di ba? And it gave way to those who cannot attend school because of work or any other reason na nakakapaghinder sa kanila na makapasok talaga face to face. This is long before the pandemic. So meron ng UPOU before pa. And ano bang ibig sabihin ng pag-create ng UPOU? This enabled itong serbisyo na ginawa ni Emil Javier. This enabled and gave hope to the members of the number 1, yung PWDs natin, to attend school without hindrances kasi mahirap for them na pumasok sa school, mahirap for them na umaccess ng mga educational institutions or maka-access sa mga educational institutions, most likely because of their disability, 'di ba? And aside from that, sino pa ba yung magbe-benefit sa UPOU? Even yung mga OFWs, 'di ba, na gusto pa ring magpatuloy na pag-aaral. Even OFWs can attend classes offshore through distance learning, and that is because of the service rendered by the creation of the University of the Philippines Online University. O 'di ba? Because of those initiatives, 'di ba, na centered sa pagsaserbisyo ng mga Pilipino, napabuti natin yung buhay ng mga Pilipino bilang isang scholar ng bayan. And that is, again, what sets apart, ito yung sinasabi natin, Tatak Upd Nstp, di ba? So, aside from that, napakadami pa mga proyekto ng pag-require ng civic courses sa UP. And that leads to the creation of the organization which is Ugnayan ng Panghinugod sa Pahinungod. This organization or Ugnayan ng Pahinungod, this organization in UP offers services to the less privileged members of the society. Ito naman yung organization sa UP Diliman na nakasentro sa mga tao na miyembro ng community na hindi masyadong nabiyayaan, say for example financially, yung mga privileges na meron tayo na unfortunately hindi natin usually in-acknowledge. Yung UP Panghinugod, ginagamit nila yung kanilang opisina para maipamahagi yung iba't ibang mga oportunidad sa mga less privileged members of the society. Sabi nga nung first director ng UP Pahinungod, hindi tayo hiwalay, sabi niya, kung hindi kabahagi ng lipunang humuhubog sa atin. And I think that is important for us to recognize that. Kasi usually, di ba, pag naririnig natin, oh no, you're a scholar ng bayan. Parang meron na tayo agad nandun na agad tayo sa high chair, 'di ba? Na parang we're unreachable, we're untouchables, we're isko in iskas. Balik tayo sa kung ano ba yung core natin as an scholar ng bayan. And this is to give back, 'di ba? To connect to the communities, to connect and render our service to the people. And through this office, 'di ba? Nire-remind niya tayo na no, you're an isko because you are bound to serve. And you are bound to serve the people. So, sa tingin ko, this is an important line from the UP, from the director of the UP Pahinungod, para malaman natin and ma-revisit natin, 'di ba, kung ano talaga yung purpose natin as an scholar ng bayan. Now, punta tayo dun sa UP Charter, 'di ba? UP Charter of 2022, which is also indicated in RA 9500. Sabi kasi dun sa charter, included dun sa mandate ng UP is yung public service. Ibig sabihin, volunteerism really is the core of UP's public service rooted in excellence. Yun yung ibig sabihin ng UP Charter. Now, paano ba nakita ng publiko, ng taong bayan, yung ating service, yung ating volunteerism na sinasabi, which is, di ba, mandato pala ng UP na makialam, na magbigay ng serbisyo at mag-volunteer. So, yung mga iska na nakikita natin lagi sa kalsada, nagra-rally, that's their way of service, that's their way of rendering service for the betterment of the country. 'Di ba? It's rooted in excellence kasi hindi naman sila nagra-rally lang just because, 'di ba? Nagra-rally sila because of a reason. And there are also many ways of volunteering and rendering your service to the country, not just organizing a rally, 'di ba? In the pandemic, nakita natin na UP through teaching, research, public service, they address, 'di ba, yung pangangailangan ng taong bayan ng Filipino people nung nagkaroon tayo ng pandemic during the COVID-19. Yung active contributions of UP during the COVID-19 pandemic, which is until today, nakita natin yon sa pamamagitan ng number 1, UP leads yung faster testing by creating what? Creating our own COVID-19 testing kits when there is an absence of testing kits. Kasi nangihingi tayo ng testing kits before. Kung naaalala nyo, during the first quarter of the pandemic, nagdo-donate lang sa atin yung US, Korea, which has better testing facility capabilities, 'di ba? Nakakahiya na bakit ganon? Third world country tayo, yes, we acknowledge that, pero bakit hindi tayo prepared ultimo sa testing kits? Na wala tayong ganon. And by the help of the UP community, 'di ba? They lead faster testing. Nag-create na lang tayo bigla-bigla ng out of thin air, 'di ba? Thank you to UP na meron tayong testing kits all of a sudden. And those testing kits are cheaper, 'di ba? Instead of buying something, nakagawa tayo ng testing kits na mas mura. Now, service of UP PGH naman. Let's go there na directly. Punta na tayo doon. Yung serbisyo ng UP PGH na ginawa talaga siyang primary COVID-19 treatment facility in the entirety of the pandemic, 'di ba? Hindi ko nga sure up until now yata meron pa rin silang mga wards set for COVID-19. So yun, that is telling something, 'di ba? Yung UPPGH is a public hospital na funded by the government. And buong facility ng UPPGH, hindi sila tumanggap ng any other illnesses aside from COVID-19 infected na mga tao. Para talaga makapag-focus sila in addressing needs ng people kasi hindi naman lahat ng mga naku-COVID noon mayayaman na may kaya talagang pumunta, magpa-test ng sarili, papuntahin yung doktor sa bahay, 'di ba? Or pumunta sa mga private hospitals. So yung PGH, yung mandate nila to serve yung public needs ng ating mga kababayan ay nakita doon, lumabas talaga doon. Kaya inis na inis din ako kung bakit may cut sa budget ng UP And that will affect greatly yung budget ng UPPGH. 'Di ba? Paano na nila matutugunan yung mandate nila to address yung health needs, yung needs ng taong bayan in terms of health? Punta muna tayo sa contribution ulit. Yung creation ng UP COVID-19 Pandemic Response. This is a group comprising of experts, 'di ba? Mathematicians, scientists, who offers recommendation to the government. Ilang beses na natin nakikita. May mga ini-interview, say for example sa 24 Oras, ABS-CBN News, CNN Philippines, na mga taga-UP, mostly scientists, mathematicians, 'di ba, ekonomista, na tumutulong sa ano ba ang magiging trend, 'di ba, yung mga R-naught na yan nakikita natin in terms of infection, in terms of our economy, in terms of kailan ba matatapos yung pandemic, and what are the things that we need to do to help our kababayans to address yung COVID-19. So, most of them, di ba, nakikita natin, naririnig naman natin lagi na they're from UP. And because this is their volunteerism, this is their service, this is how they are rendering service for the people to better the lives of the people when they are needed most. These are professionals, di ba? And di ba, yung creation ng UP COVID-19 pandemic team, di ba, response team, this is again telling something about them being a scholar. Di ba? They are giving back now that they're professionals, they're rendering service. And mahal, sa totoo lang, mahal na kumuha ng mga professionals to address a public issue. Di ba? We're in the middle of a pandemic, and this is not a joke. This is not something that we are to play around with. Pag nagkamali sila ng in terms of data gathering, yung datos na ibibigay nila sa atin, maaaring magkaloko-loko lalo, di ba? Magkandaleche-leche lalo ang ating response sa pandemic. So, thank you to those people, di ba? These group of experts na mga mathematicians and scientists and many others, economists and what else, na nag-render ng service nila through their volunteer work. Now, 'di ba, sabi nga rin, aside from that, meron research, 'di ba? Yung DOST and UPPGH, they're conducting a research, 'di ba, on how to treat COVID-19 more efficiently. Now that we have enough data, now that we have all of the datas, 'di ba? In the past 2 years or so, or more than 2 years. Meron ngayon, nagre-research yung UPPGH again, and DOST joined to treat COVID-19 more efficiently. Hindi lang yung painom-inom ng gamot, hindi lang yung hindi lang yung minamanage lang yung symptoms. Kung hindi yung talagang gamot na pag ininom mo, parang biogesic, o wala ka ng headache, 'di ba? Wala ka ng lagnat, ganun. So it's important for us to fund that, 'di ba? And this is why, again, balik na tayo dun sa bakit merong UP budget cut, 'di ba? Bakit importante na tutulan natin yung budget cut in terms of UP, not just because you are an scholar ng bayan, hindi porket taga UP ka, yes, automatic tututol ka. Pero pag hindi ka taga UP, hindi ka na ba tututol sa budget cut ng UP? That's wrong, kasi nakita natin yung ambag ng UP in terms of our healthcare, in terms of research, in terms of our data, 'di ba, in addressing our economy, in addressing our health crisis, 'di ba? Sobrang importante ng funding in terms of in terms of support, financial support sa institution na ito, dahil yung 2.5 billion budget cut na yan, na decrease niyan for 2023, sobrang laki na nun na maitutulong. Sobrang laki ng maitutulong nun sa UPPGH, 'di ba? And sabihin na natin, wag na natin bigyan yung university, although kami as a scholar ngayon, sobrang hirap kumuha ng units. Dahil kulang yung units, 'di ba? Yes, andun kami sa UP, naka-enroll kami sa UP, kulang yung units namin. Pero madi-delay yung graduation, 'di ba? And delaying yung graduation ng mga UP graduates means delaying yung service na pwede namin i-render sa community namin. 'Di ba? O sabihin natin, makikita natin yung volunteer work natin. Kahit hindi pa pwede naman tayo mag-render ng volunteer work service natin to the country kahit hindi ka pa graduate. Pero iba pa rin yung level, yung quality ng service na maibibigay mo sa community once graduate ka na. So, delaying the budget means delaying graduates of UP, delaying the service rendered by the UPPGH, and delaying the service that the Filipino people will get from UP. So, it doesn't make sense Hindi win-win situation na mag-budget cut ka dito sa UP tapos maglagay ka ng Intel Fund sa Vice President. So I think that is outright wrong. So now, balik tayo kasi medyo umiinit na yung balitaktakan. So again, yung call ko is no to UP budget cut. And the data, may kita naman natin sa UP Office of the Student Region. By the way, balik tayo, loop back tayo dun sa UP President na si Danilo Concepcion. Sabi niya kasi, sa isang graduation speech, di ba? A UP graduate has to be a willing, creative, and audacious agent of social transformation, going above and beyond the normal call of duty to find ways of uplifting the lives of our countrymen. So, what does it mean? Di ba? Sabi niya, hindi natatapos, di ba, yung pagiging scholar mo, pag-graduate mo, 'di ba? Mas pa nga na dapat mag-render ka ng service sa Filipino people. You need and you must go above and beyond, 'di ba? Sa normal call of duty, say for example, you're a nurse, you're a doctor, you graduated from UP. You're an educator, you're a teacher, 'di ba? You're an engineer, you graduated from UP. Hindi lang basta-basta mediocre work yung aasahan sa'yo ng employer mo. Kung hindi, yung dadalhin mo, 'di ba, sa sarili mo without anybody, without your boss telling you na, hey, galingan mo kasi taga-UP ka, not because of that, but because you know in yourself that you need to go above and beyond your normal call of duty. Kasi meron kang utang na loob, 'di ba, na mag-give back dun sa mga tao sa institution at sa mga tao na nagpaaral sa iyo. So, dun yun. Hindi yun sa government, hindi yun sa political leader na sinasabi nila na utang na loob, kung hindi dun sa taong bayan. Gagalingan mo, meron kang husay, meron kang excellence na tinatawag para mapabuti yung buhay ng countrymen mo, hindi lang yung sarili mo. 'Di ba? Kasi kung sarili mo lang iisipin mo, ba't nag-scholar ka pa ng bayan, 'di ba? Sana sarili mo lang inisip mo, nag-private school ka na lang. Anyway, so yun, that's the idea for me. That's how I digest that. By the way, sabi nga nila, bakit may NSTP? Bakit ba importante yung NSTP? So, yung NSTP law of 2021 or RA 9163 at 2009, which is the implementing rules and regulations of NSTP. Sabi dun sa Rule 1, Section 2, magkakailangan natin magkaroon ng civic consciousness. And this includes yung physical, moral, spiritual, intellectual, and social development. Para ano? Para to serve the country. And ibig sabihin, yung pag-create ng NSTP sa mga universities, 'di ba? Nag-uplift siya ng civic consciousness ng mga tao, ng mga students, 'di ba? Start young, sabi, 'di ba? So we're starting young, college. Start tayo ng para maintindihan natin, 'di ba? Ano ba yung civic consciousness? At saka ano ba yung kailangan nating i-develop sa atin physical, moral, spiritual, intellectual, and social para ma-render natin yung sarili natin to serve our country. And this is why NSTP is important. That is the core of NSTP. Now, yun yung bakit may NSTP, kasi sabi ng batas, kailangan natin ng NSTP to improve those, 'di ba? Areas of development. Now, ano ang NSTP? Sabi naman, it aims to develop, yung sinabi ko na kanina rin, civic consciousness, number 1. Number 2, defense preparedness, 'di ba? And ethics of service. So, dahil dito, ano ba yung mga components paano natin ma-hone yung sabihin natin civic consciousness, defense preparedness, ethics of service? Gamit yon yung tatlong components ng NSTP. There are ROTC that will help us, 'di ba? Sa defense preparedness, LTS, and CWTS. So, punta tayo sa ROTC first. Yung ROTC, ang layunin niya is maihanda yung mga mag-aaral tulad natin na sa pangangailangang pangdepensa, 'di ba, ng bansa. So, in terms of sabihin natin may threat of war, may threat of insurgents, may threat of ngayon, 'di ba, sa sovereignty natin. So, kailangan natin kahit ano pang sabihin natin, kailangan nating depensahan, 'di ba? Yung ating bansa. And through ROTC, ipe-prepare niya tayo para maihanda yung sarili natin sa mga pangangailangan na 'yon. And LTS naman, LTS, yung Literary Training Service, ang layunin naman nito is yung hasain, di ba? Ang mag-aaral para magturo ng math, ng literacy sa mga out-of-school youth, di ba? And to those others din na kailangan yun. Ano yung isa pang tinuturo sa LTS? This aims, of course, para i-develop natin yung critical thinking nung mga targeted audience, tama ba yun? Targeted people natin, di ba? So in terms of math literacy, okay yan, normal yan eh. Lalo sa mga out of school youth, ano ba yung critical thinking na kailangan i-develop sa mga out of school youth, di ba? Parang magkaroon sila ng tamang pagpili, 'di ba? Tamang yung pagpili. Sa tingin ko that's the main that's the key idea na talagang hinuhon at dine-develop ng critical thinking skills, 'di ba? Para makapamili tayo kung ano ba talaga yung tama, ano yung mali, ano yung parang hindi to tama, parang dapat may mas i-improve pa. And when we hone our skills in terms of critical thinking, we will become better persons. And when we become better persons, mas magiging productive members of society tayo. Now, sino ba yung mga dapat kumuha ng NSTP? Yan. So, lahat tayo nadadaan ng kolehiyo. Mapa-BA pa yan, bachelor's, associate, or even certificate courses. We need to get NSTP. And sino yung mga hindi naman kailangan kumuha ng NSTP? So, siyempre, kung nakakomplete ka na ng NSTP sa dating school mo and you're transferring, hindi mo na kailangan kumuha ng NSTP. And of course, dapat 6 units yung natapos mo. So, if for example, hindi pa kompleto yung NSTP mo, 3 units lang yung nakuha mo sa dating mong course, and then, or 2 units lang yung nakuha mo sa dating mong school, and then kailangan mo ng 6 units dito sa UP, then kukuha naman pa yung other 2 units dito sa UP. And through change of matriculation yun. Now, ano pa? Sino pa ba? Syempre, sabi dito, civic consciousness and service for the Filipino people. Ang mga foreign students, syempre, hindi sila required kumuha ng NSTP unlike Filipinos. Kasi, hindi naman sila magre-render ng service. Hindi naman sila expected to render service in this country, in the Philippines, kasi hindi naman sila Filipino. Pero, if you are a Filipino, yes, you are indeed required to get NSTP. Okay? Hindi lang ROTC ang required, kundi yung kahit ano doon. ROTC, LTS, CWATS, yun yung mga required na kuhanin mo as a college student. Yun. Again, babalik lang tayo i-ano lang natin to, wrap up. Ayan, patapos na rin tayo. So, wrapping up the topic, again, i-remind lang natin ano ang Tatak UPD NSTP. So, may tinatawag kasi tayong UPD NSTP program map. And ito yung mapa na naglalayon na i-guide yung mga students of NSTP sa UP Diliman kung ano yung mga objectives, mga learning objectives, corners of improvement ma-i-develop natin as students ng NSTP sa UP Diliman. Number 1, of course, ito yung pag-embrace natin sa identity of UP. Again, as a public service university. Babalik tayo lagi dun sa diwa sa core ng UP Diliman, ng UP, University of the Philippines, as a premier state university in the country that is solely based on public service aside from academic excellence and honor. Diba? And pangalawa, yun, sinabi ko na, husay at dangal, honor and excellence. Diba? Sabi nga nila, being an isko does not stop. Pag na-acquire mo na yung academic excellence, dapat meron pa rin nangingibabaw lagi na dangal, 'di ba? Hindi lang husay. Kailangan natin ng marangal na pagseserbisyo sa pagseserbisyong publiko. That is another core, 'di ba? And ano ba yung isa? Yung isa pa sa program map is tutugon nito sa sa banta ng pambansang seguridad. So, yung mga security threats natin from outside the Philippines, 'di ba? Anything economic, sabihin pa nating threats of war, whatever. Itong NSTP, layo niya na tugunan yung mga pangangailangan natin doon in terms of education crisis. Ano pa ba? Health crisis, economic crisis. All of those threats, 'di ba? Tutugunan ng NSTP yun. Pero hindi lang naman NSTP yung tutugon doon, ha? Hindi naman ganoon kalalim or lawak yung sakop ng NSTP. Of course, we need to address all of those the causes, the root causes of those issues, 'di ba, of those threats, kung saan talaga. Kung health ba yan, di dapat sa Department of Health, dapat i-address doon. Kung education yan, the Department of Education, of course. NSTP is just there para maging kahalili, 'di ba, ng mga departamento na yon para tulungan kahit papaano maibsan, 'di ba, yung mga pangangailangan na yon ng ating mga kababayan. Now, civic consciousness, ito yung isa sa mga priorities or talagang takeaway ko. Yung civic consciousness, through, sabi nga nila, yung transdisciplinary engagement with communities. Ito yung pag-connect ng mga scholar ng bayan not because sinabihan sila ng kanilang mga professor na hey, makisali tayo sa mga rally or whatnot, pero hindi kami tinuturuan. Again, let me just set this clear, set the record straight na hindi kami pinapwersa sa UP na mag-rally. Walang ganon. Through civic consciousness, dahil alam mo kung ano yung mali, dahil alam mo kung ano yung dapat baguhin, kaya ka nagpupunta sa streets, not because a professor told you to do so. Diba? Ito yung mga transdisciplinary engagements. And again, I just want to set the record straight na hindi lang pagrarally yung engagement na pwede mong gawin sa community mo. It can be through volunteer work, can be through other things na pwede mong i-donate or pwede kang magbigay ng tulong. So, yun, may mga transdisciplinary engagement na pwede kang maitulong sa community mo. Hindi lang yung pag-organize, 'di ba? And again, yung layunin ng NSTP sa UP Diliman ay hubugin yung ating nationalistic ideals, maging innovative tayo as a scholar ng bayan while remaining ethical sa ating mga activities. And I think ethics, parang integrity yan. Hindi mo na kailangang may mag-police pa sa'yo. Pulisin ka pa ng katrabaho mo, pulisin ka pa ng parents mo, pulisin ka pa ng kung sino-sinong mentor mo para maging ethical ka. Knowing to do something right, 'di ba? It takes guts and it takes professionalism and ethics beyond professionalism pa nga eh. Yung piliin mo yung tama when you are in a crossroads to choose when yung dalawang sides, wrong or right, ano bang pipiliin mo? 'Di ba? That's integrity. And for me, it's correlated with ethics. And being ethical as an isko, dapat automatic yan eh. So, hindi ko alam kung bakit meron pa ring mga scholar ng bayan na medyo questionable for me yung kanilang stand, 'di ba? So, I think that's another takeaway, but that's another question for me. That's the question in mind. Bakit may mga ganun? So, I think I need to do further reading kung bakit ganun para maintindihan siguro kung saan sila nanggagaling. Pero 'di ba, kung dadaan naman tayo dito sa filter na to ng UPD NSTP, meron tayong civic consciousness, meron tayong critical thinking, all of the necessary tools are there for us to judge properly and to assess a situation, a circumstance. 'Di ba? Bakit may mga ganon? So, I think this is why NSTP is important, 'di ba? It addresses yung mga suliranin natin na 'yon. So, yeah, I think that concludes our episode for this week. For this week, I'll try to release at least one or two episodes per week para matapos ng mabilis lang itong ating episode, ating season, 'di ba? And again, I really appreciate everyone who stuck with me, who stayed with me throughout this long hiatus. Kasi nung mid-year, hindi ako nag-podcast kasi nagpahinga rin ako. And then itong graduating year ko na. Wow. Graduating year na. Paano na? Full throttle na natin to. Tutuloy-tuloy na natin to. Arangkada na tayo para masulit natin yung ating time in the university. And again, my name is Ken and thank you for listening. Undeterred by Ken. Bye-bye! Your stories heard. This is Undeterred. Live! Podcast streaming on Spotify, Google Podcast, and Apple Podcast. Stories heard. This is Undeterred. Undeterred by Ken.